All right, everybody, whether you're a fan of the P10F or whether you're a fan of the Gen 5 17 MOS, I've got something for you today because we are going to go head to head with these two full-size hammers. I think either way, some people are going to be happy and some people are not going to be happy about this, but why these two? So these are oftentimes compared because CZ has been becoming very, very popular, and we all know Glock is one of the most widely carried setups out there, especially the 17 when it comes to like a work capacity, whether it's law enforcement, security, stuff like that. It's just a very popular choice. And CZ has been doing everything they can to kind of encroach on some of that business. And even though they are very similar, they are also very different in ways that we will talk about up close here. And let's talk about like why I do these videos. I do these because people put these head to head and people are really looking for information to make a choice between one of these or the other, because there are advantages and disadvantages to both of these depending on your situation. Either way, I'm gonna do my best to kind of help you guys out with that stuff so you can make a more informed decision. But before we go any further, a word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is brought to you by Hidden Hybrid Holsters, bringing you that sweet handmade Amish leather to fulfill your needs from belts to holsters. Whether it's treating that 1911 right, tucking that new Army hand cannon into your pants, or just a little bit of leather to go with that sweet 80s mustache, check out hiddenhybridholsters.com or at the link in the description.
All right, I appreciate you sitting through those because those are a huge help to the channel. So we're gonna get down and dirty with these two, go over all the specs, talk about range footage, and talk about those little differences because there are quite a few between these, whether it's the coating, the barrel length, the slide length, all that good stuff that you guys are gonna wanna know should you be interested in that big hammer P10F or that Gen 5 17 MOS. If you're interested in anything you see here, I will leave links down below for you guys to check out. If not, check that first link in the description. It'll take you where all those links are. But we're gonna go ahead and get into the P10F from CZ and the Gen 5 17 MOS from Glock right now. All right, let's go ahead and get into both of these right here, the P10F and the Gen 5 17 MOS. We're gonna go over the basic kind of specs on these things, and then we'll get into kind of all of those intimate details with them. We'll start with the P10F right here. So you're gonna get 2 mags with the P10. I wish you got 3, 19+1 capacity with the high vis follower in them. And then as far as the pistol itself goes, it is a big one. 28.2 ounces, 8 inches in overall length, 4.5 inch barrel on this bad boy. And it has a 1.26 inch overall width on this thing. Optics ready version. That's just the basic stuff. We'll get into everything else in here a little bit more intimately after we go over the basic specs on the Gen 5 17 right here. So again, polymer striker fired setup right here. Overall weight on this one's gonna be 24.87 with a mag in it, so it's quite a bit lighter. We have a 4.49 inch barrel. We get 3 17 round mags right here with the high vis follower. And we have an overall length of 7.95, overall width of 1.34 inches on this thing. And overall, it's Glock. You should pretty much know what a Glock looks like at this point. Well, let's go ahead and get into a little bit more of the kind of details of this. We'll go back to the P10F here. So on the P10, as far as up in the magwell right here, there's a little bit of a flare to the pistol grip in here, which does help with magazine exchanges. And then you can see there's a little bit of a kind of depression right here to help you strip magazines should one ever get stuck up in there. We do have multiple interchangeable back straps for you if you need to adjust this a little bit for your liking. You do have a single-sided magazine release that is reversible. You can change it over. The texture on the CZ is quite aggressive as compared to the Glock. We will take a look at the Glock stippling here in just a second. Although there's about the same amount of grip texture on both of these setups. So up under here on the trigger guard, they've done a very nice job of really kind of rounding things out in here, which does make it feel a little bit better when you do have that good grip out there on the range. Moving forward from there, pretty standard trigger guard. We do have multiple slots of pick rail, and it is the 1913 or Picatinny size there. Coming up here, you do have some of that same texture right there as a good solid reference point, which is definitely pretty nice. Do have a ambidextrous slide stop slide release right there Little stiff when you first get this thing, but overall works just fine. Standard looking back plate, as you're gonna see pretty much on everything that's in the striker fired world. We do have a blacked out rear sight with anti-glare serrations, a high-vis front sight right there that is a night sight, and those do come with the Optics Ready version. We do not get Optics plates with the CZ. You have to buy those on your own. And coming forward from there, we have very good rear serrations, very good front serrations, and then the slide is very nicely kind of chamfered off right there. So if you're one of those people that comes over and uses that kind of C-clamp grip to work that slide or press check, you can do that with ease. Got some good kind of nose work done here right there. It's been very nicely chamfer cut for holstering, unholstering, all that good stuff. With these sights on here, you will not be able to get a co-witness with most optics. As you can see right there, you're just not going to be able to get that done out there. As far as the overall feel of the CZ, it is great, but you can see with a double XL size hand, it is a big one. There is plenty of grip to work with here, and it is definitely a little bit portly. So getting into the Gen 5 17 here, you get 3 of those mags. You do have multiple back straps here, a little bit more of an aggressive angle on the grip, and you get the patented Glock hump. So it's a little bit more of a grip to get a hold on, or a little bit more of an angle of a grip to work with. Very standard Glock texture here. It does go all the way around. Definitely not nearly as aggressive as the CZ. We do have a reversible magazine release right there, which is pretty easily reversed as long as you know what you're doing. Moving forward from there, it is standard Glock trigger guard up under there. Nothing sexy about that. We do get the 1913 size or pick any size slot up here, but you only have 1 slot for the accessory rail. Moving up, we do have Ambi slide stop slide release, which they did a great job on. Really seems to be the perfect size. Coming up onto the slide, standard looking back plate. This version has the plastic sights on them. Plastic sights on these are trash. Change them out. I'm just waiting to determine which sights I want for these. Glock does come with the MOS plates, but I have an aftermarket C&H precision plate because I'm running the 509T, and I prefer their plates over the Glock ones, but the Glock ones are plenty usable. DLC coating on the slide. The coating on the CZ is going to be nitride. This does have the marksman barrel. It's fine, plenty to work with. We got rear serrations, we got our front serrations right here, but it's blocky glocky as normal. Yes, I said blocky glocky. So other than that, we do have some nice work up here on the nose for holstering, unholstering. They finally decided to give a little bit more of an appeal to this thing than just the square blocked off nose. As far as everything else in here internally, it's pretty much Glock as usual. There were a few changes inside here. The breakdown procedure on these is both the same. Ensure they're clear. Press that trigger out, and then you just pull down on your takedown levers, slide the slide off. I think everybody knows how to do that. So now that you guys have had a really good chance to kind of get those specs, let's just do a little side-by-side action right here. Get these back plates kind of as close to each other as I can, and you kind of see there is definitely a noticeable difference in the length of these two right there. Even though I've got the lights on, you can see. And even though in the measurements there's not a huge difference in the overall length, the reason there's not a huge difference in the overall length is because of the angle of the Glock grip. So the P10F is a substantially longer and a substantially more, how would I say, kind of beefier pistol. Let me go ahead and get this set right here. Try to get these barrel to barrel. And you can actually see the difference in how much more the back plate on the P10F sticks out. You'll also be able to see, put this one on top here. Oh, I want to put it like this so you can see that. You'll see how much of that Glock hump kind of sticks out the back right there as compared to the angle of the grip on the CZ. So there's definitely a flatter planed angle on the CZ as compared to the Glock. So overall, that's kind of just a head-to-head right there, a little bit of a comparison. You can see those differences, you know, on the chamfer cut on the CZ there on the left as compared to the Glock on the right. Then you can see there is definitely a noticeable size difference just all around for that F, because it's just a monster. So now that you've got a good chance to see those things, let's talk about the range footage. Let's talk about the performance, how they feel out there, the price, and if there's any issues that have arisen with either of these. Those are definitely some full-size sweeties, but what about that big honey P10F? So there is a lot of good stuff here when it comes to the P10F. The size of this thing, the weight of it definitely makes it very controllable out there on the range. Now, even though I do have an aftermarket trigger in the CZ here, the CZ, in my opinion, has a far better trigger than the Glock and a lot of other striker-fired stuff out there on the market. The ergonomics with the profile of that grip being a little bit less aggressive than the Glock definitely makes this easy for somebody like me who likes a less aggressive grip angle just to get to work with it out there on the range. But as with everything, there are a couple of negatives. One, for this thing, it's just dang near impossible to get right now. It's been very difficult to find, and when you can find it, the price is highly inflated, and that's just not good. It does not come with the optics plates, which is kind of a buzzkill, so you have to buy one either from CZ Customs or any other number of aftermarket companies making plates for them. So those are a couple things that you may want to pay attention to if you are trying to make a decision between the 17 and the CZ. And one final thing on the P10F, it's just not as easy to work on as the Glock if you're into changing out parts or anything like that. There's a little bit more going on inside here than the very minimalistic parts that the Glock has in it. And how about that brick, the 17 MOS, the brick, but the brick that lots of people seem to love in that 17 MOS. Now, when it comes to the Glock name brand, they're one of the most proven pistols out there. The 17 Gen 5 MOS here is one of the easiest setups to work on. It's super simple. You can watch a couple of videos and pretty much change out every single part in this thing, and there are a ton of aftermarket parts out there. And the availability, even with what's been going on, has still been good as compared to the CZ P10F optics ready, because that thing's been, like I said, almost impossible to get a hold of. It does come with the optics plates in here, so it's a little bit cheaper up front because you don't have to buy the optics plate. We'll get more into price here in a minute, but those are definitely some of the positives out there. Now, there are a couple of things that maybe people do not like when it comes to the Glock. One, very aggressive grip angle. That little Glock down here, as I've said before in videos, there's nobody out there saying, man, I likes me some of that Glock hump right there, because it puts your wrist at a really weird angle, having to force that muzzle down when you're out there in that firing grip. Other thing here, the Glock trigger is just not great at all, which is why like everybody makes an aftermarket Glock trigger, because it is pretty nasty out of the box. They do get a little bit better with time. You can put different connectors in there, but the whole trigger in itself is just not great at all. Now, minus all the stuff that you see on these things, the optics and the lights, let's talk about the price points of these things. So the P10F, the MSRP is $649. That's a pretty solid price. However, you have to buy those optics plates from an aftermarket source because they just don't come with it. Now, in what's been going on and the availability of the P10F, I have seen them going for closer to $800 online, which is definitely far more than you should be paying for it, but that's what people are doing with everything that's been going on since stock has been very low. Now, as far as the Gen 5 17 goes, the MSRP I saw was like $679 or $699, which isn't bad, again, as well, because you do get the optics plates with it, but I have seen them in stores for everything from $620 to over $700, because prices are just all over the place with what's been going on in 2020, 2021, and what's likely gonna continue probably into 2022 or even beyond. Now, if you're in the full-size market, these are two to definitely take a look at out there. They have a lot of good and a couple of things maybe that could be cleaned up on them, but the decision is always ultimately gonna be yours. I really like both of them. There's a give and take with both of them. You really need to treat these like a car and go out and just test drive the things. You shouldn't be in there buying cars that you wouldn't take a test drive in. You probably shouldn't do that with these either. At least get them in your hand in the store and see which one at least feels a little bit more natural for you. And then of course, price is gonna come down to it as well. and that overall availability. And that's what I have for you all today. The decision is always ultimately yours. I hope this video helped you guys out, and if it did, hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell right down there on, and give that video a like if you like anything that is going on here. Like I said, I'll leave links for that stuff down below. Not check the first link in the description. That will take you to where they all are. Huge shout out to my Patreons on to Shall Not Comply for handling all the swag for the channel. I'll put a link for the angry raccoon setup down there, and you guys can check that out if you are interested. You guys get out there and have some fun. Try to conserve a little bit of that ammo because it's still ugly with ammunition right now. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you guys on the next one. See how shitty that mag grab was? I was like, I grabbed it with 2 fingers, but still got it in. Fuck. Dude, I heard your fucking camera and I went for it. I saw that one out of my peripheral bounce off your head.